You already know something is different about you. You felt it. In quiet moments, when everyone else is spiraling, you stay still. When the room fills with noise, something in you goes calm, but you've never fully trusted it. You've questioned yourself so many times that the confidence living inside you started to feel like arrogance. So you shrunk. You stayed quiet. You kept explaining yourself to people who never asked for the explanation. And here's what nobody told you: these 7 signs. You're more confident than you think. That thing you've been doubting, that stillness, that quiet refusal to collapse, that is confidence. And you've had it longer than you realize. Most people think confidence looks loud. They think it looks like the person commanding every room, the one who never hesitates, never doubts, never flinches. But that's performance. That's not confidence. Confidence doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need anyone to agree with it. It just moves, quietly, steadily, without asking for permission. And you've been moving like that. You just haven't noticed yet. Think about the last time someone pressured you into a decision and something inside you resisted. Not loudly, not with a fight, just a quiet, firm resistance. You slowed down when everyone wanted you to rush. You said you needed time. Maybe they called you difficult. Maybe they called you slow. But you didn't collapse. You didn't abandon your instinct just to end their discomfort. That was confidence. Protecting your pace. Trusting your process, even when the world wanted you to panic alongside them. Most people move at the speed of anxiety. Every unanswered message feels like rejection. Every delay feels like abandonment. They respond immediately to prove they care. They decide quickly to eliminate tension. They confuse speed with enthusiasm and urgency with discipline. But anxiety is not energy. Anxiety is a nervous system trying to resolve what confidence already knows can wait. You don't have to respond right now. You don't have to decide today. Comfort with open loops is not laziness. It is a sign of a mind that knows its own ground. And here's what the phone does to that ground. It erodes it. Every notification pulls you out of yourself. Every scroll is a vote against your own focus. You open an app for 30 seconds and 20 minutes disappear. You've watched it happen. You felt the guilt after. That foggy, low-grade shame of another hour lost to a screen. The students sitting in class with their phones under the desk, absorbing nothing, producing nothing, wondering at the end of every semester why they feel so far behind. The young person lying in bed at 1 a.m., consuming other people's highlight reels and calling it research. That's not living. That's drifting. And somewhere inside you, you already know the difference between the two. Confidence is not built in the moments you feel inspired. It is built in the moments you act when you don't. When the alarm goes off and nothing in you wants to move, and you move anyway. When the work is boring and repetitive and you do it anyway. When no one is watching, no one is clapping, and the algorithm won't reward you for this particular hour of discipline, and you go in anyway. That's where it lies. In the unsexy, unremarkable, relentless act of showing up for yourself when the feeling isn't there. Motivation is weather. Some days it's there. Most days it isn't. The people waiting to feel ready are still waiting. You can't feel your way into consistency. You act your way into it. You build it by doing it before you want to, by sitting down before the inspiration arrives, by beginning before you believe. Confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is the decision that something matters more than the fear. And every time you make that decision, you become someone slightly less likely to flinch the next time. Think about the last time you set a standard for yourself. Maybe it was a boundary in a relationship. Maybe it was deciding how you wanted to spend your time. You said it simply, clearly, without an apology wrapped around it, and someone pushed back. And instead of collapsing, instead of softening and reshaping yourself into something more palatable, you held the line. You didn't yell. You didn't perform. You simply stayed. That is what internal authority looks like, not dominance. Stability, the quiet refusal to negotiate your values just because someone is uncomfortable with them. Most people don't do that. They feel the friction of a boundary and immediately work to dissolve it. They apologize for having needs. They over-explain until the other person feels comfortable again. And in doing so, they slowly hand their self-respect away, piece by piece, conversation by conversation, until they don't know where they end and the other person's approval begins. You felt that pull. Everyone has. But you've also felt yourself resisted. And that resistance, that is the muscle. That is what we are building. You don't explain your success to people who are threatened by it. You've noticed how you shrink sometimes in rooms where others seem smaller by comparison. You downplay. You deflect. You make yourself easier to be around by becoming less. And you tell yourself it's humility. But humility and smallness are not the same thing. Humility is knowing your limits. Smallness is pretending you don't have strengths. One is grounded. The other is a performance of insecurity dressed up as modesty. Stop performing. You don't have to inflate yourself. You don't have to announce every achievement or wear your wins loudly. But you are allowed to stand in the full size of who you are without apologizing. The people who belong in your life will not be threatened by your growth. They will be lit up by it. The ones who need you small are not your people. Let them go, quietly, without explanation. And this is where it gets sharp, because the comparing has to stop right now. Not gradually, not eventually, now. The person you're measuring yourself against is living a life you can't see fully. The success on their profile is curated. The confidence in their reel is edited. The timeline they seem to be ahead of you on is not a race you were ever supposed to be running. You were never supposed to be them. You were supposed to be building the discipline to become a deeper version of yourself. That's the only competition that was ever real. Every hour you spend staring at someone else's life is an hour you are not building your own. Every morning you lose to a scroll is a morning you could have spent building the version of yourself that future you will be grateful for. You don't need more information. You don't need another video after this one. You need a decision. A real one. The kind that lives in your body, not just your head. The kind that makes you close the app and open the notebook. That makes you turn off the noise and sit with the discomfort of starting. Because starting uncomfortable is exactly how confidence is built. Your identity is not up for debate. It is not something you defend in comment sections. It is not something you re-explain to people who have already decided what they think of you. Criticism is data. Misunderstanding is tolerable. Projection is observable. But none of it defines you unless you let it. You don't have to absorb every opinion. You don't have to respond to every attack. You can observe, evaluate, and simply adjust who gets access to you. That is not arrogance. That is discernment. And discernment is a form of self-respect most people never develop because they're too busy managing everyone else's perception of them. You are already more confident than you think. The signs are already there. You've been noticing them quietly. You've been living them in small, unremarkable moments that never felt significant enough to count. But they count. Every time you held your pace. Every time you said no without a paragraph of justification. Every time you felt the urge to shrink and chose to stay. That was confidence. It was always you. Now stop waiting for someone to confirm it. Stop waiting for the version of yourself that has it all figured out to finally begin. That version is built in the doing. It is forged in the ordinary days, the boring disciplines, the invisible decisions that no one sees and no one applauds. This is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Right now. In this decision, in this breath, in this choice to finally stop explaining yourself and start becoming yourself. Move and don't look back.